everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Megan Matusi.
My name is Madeline Matusi.
And I'm Alyssa Wee.
And this is our senior cast project.
We chose to do the Hydrocephalus Association because I am diagnosed with it. And what do you...
But it's also a cause that is really, really close to our heart because Maddie has it, but also because a lot of Americans and people around the world have it. And it's something that you don't really hear about. And we wanted to raise awareness for this condition.
So welcome to Hearts for Hydrocephalus. Today we have a couple of different activities planned. We're listening to Maddie's story. We're learning more about hydrocephalus, and at the end we have a nice little Kahoot for everybody to participate in. So that should be fun.
Yeah.
We also want to say thank you to the following people. We want to say thank you to Jessica Carruthers from Waxing the City for donating, Krista from K-Shine Photography, Marina Thompson from the Hydrocephalus Association. She's been amazing and has helped us set this up. The Martinez family, the Fekete family, Bodie Havnor for putting this all together. We could not do it without him.
Miss Geertz.
And all of our CCPS and our families that are watching this and that are helping us with this tonight.
Yeah.
All right. We also want to let you know that there is a chance to donate and that there are raffle tickets being sold. So the first thing to donate is one, you can text HFH to that number on the screen. We've also raised $275 so far, but we are really hoping that you guys can help us meet our goal of $5,000. All right, so you can go to that website down at the bottom in light pink to donate.
If you are here to donate, please select your donation below to help us raise funds and awareness for the Hydrocephalus Association.
And like it says on the page, no act of generosity is too small to make a difference, so anything actually helps. It's really awesome if you guys can donate at all. We totally appreciate it. Everybody at the Hydrocephalus Association would totally appreciate it, and it's just a great way to give back to your community during this kind of trying time.
There is also a raffle going on, so we do want to remind you that you can go to Sign Up Genius and buy raffle tickets.
They are $5 a piece, and it will take you through the sign-up process as soon as you say submit and sign up for the item that you would like to put your raffle in for.
So some of the items that we are auctioning off are, of course, items from the Hydrocephalus Association, items from Waxing the City, items from Krista.
We have some other items that were donated by Cottonwood families as well.
Oh, okay. So I apologize. The tickets are $1 a piece, but you do have to buy five at a time. So just to let you know when you go on to the Sign Up Genius to buy your raffle items.
All right, so we just wanted to start with some general facts about hydrocephalus. First off, what is hydrocephalus?
A condition when the brain fluid is accumulating in the head and causes brain damage. When was it first discovered? It was discovered in 1957.
Yeah, so just a little bit more about hydrocephalus. There's this brain fluid, I forget what it's called.
The cerebral
spinal fluid. That builds up in your brain, and it causes some pressure on the brain. It can lead to brain damage. It's really important that treatment occurs because it can end up being fatal if that does not happen. And some of the treatment options include a shunt.
And different types of brain surgery, but there is only brain surgery as a treatment. There is no cure, and so that is also why we are doing this tonight, is to raise money to help fund research to find a cure for hydrocephalus.
There are 4 different types of hydrocephalus, which is on our slideshow. Is there a cure? No, there is not.
So hydrocephalus can affect lots of different ages. It can affect little babies, and that's mostly what we've experienced with Maddie, or not we, but that happens a lot with little babies, but it can also develop later on in life. So it's really important that we look at research towards this condition and kind of find a cure, because it doesn't just affect babies, it affects everybody.
So the first thing that we are going to play is a video, and it is of our mom, Mary Matusi, explaining her story and going through the process of finding out that Maddie had hydrocephalus, everything that our family has been through. So we just want you to listen, and we are once again very thankful that you are here to support us tonight.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Mary, and I'm Maddie's mom, and I'm here to tell the story of Maddie and hydrocephalus. So in the fall of 2002, I found out that I was pregnant with triplets. And when I was 4 months pregnant, I found out that I was having 2 identical twin girls and a boy. So we also found out at that same time that the twins, Maddie and Megan, had something called twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. And that's a very rare syndrome that happens sometimes with identical twins, where the placenta is not equally divided. And one of the twins is a donor and the other one is a recipient. And all of the donor's fluids and nutrients are going to the recipient twin, and it can be very dangerous for both. But in utero, when the babies are still growing inside the mom, the donor is more at risk. But as soon as the babies are born, the recipient becomes the one that is in the most danger. With this syndrome, we learned that in 85% of the cases, one of the twins is pretty severely disabled, or will have some sort of disability. And in 50% of the cases, one twin will die. And so this was really devastating news for us at the time. And because we were pregnant with a third baby, Luke, we couldn't do some of the more modern medical treatments to help with that, because we could hurt him if we were doing procedures to actually help the girls. So it was a very stressful time. I was put on bed rest at 16 weeks pregnant, and I was on bed rest for 14 weeks, 6 weeks at home, and then 8 weeks in the hospital. And the triplets still came 10 weeks early. So they were born at 30 weeks. And at that time, Maddie was born first, and when they cut her umbilical cord, there was a sudden rush of blood from Megan to Maddie, which is something that they had anticipated, but that sudden rush of blood is too much for premature babies to handle. And so both of the girls, Maggie and Maddie, had brain bleeds. And Maddie had a grade 3 intraventricular hemorrhage, and Megan had a grade 1. So grade 3 is much worse than a grade 1, but we had to wait and see if the brain bleeds would resolve. Megan's resolved on its own, which was great news, but at 4 weeks old, they told us that Maddie's had not resolved, and that she had developed hydrocephalus. And hydrocephalus is a condition where the cerebral spinal fluid is trapped inside the ventricles of the brain. There's a blockage. Normally the spinal fluid gets distributed throughout our body, and our bodies absorb it, and it's something that your body makes constantly. But with people with hydrocephalus, there's a blockage, and it gets stuck in the ventricular of the brain and one of the ventricles, and it just expands the brain and the head. Now, at that time, we were very scared to hear that Maddie had hydrocephalus, because back in history before the 1950s, there still is no cure for hydrocephalus, but there was no cure and there was no treatment for hydrocephalus. And my mother, who is 85 now, when she grew up, she had known people with hydrocephalus, and those people couldn't go to school, their head continued to grow, and what would happen is eventually their head would be so heavy that they couldn't even stand up or walk. They would just have to lay down because their heads were so heavy and big. And so we were obviously very worried about that diagnosis. But in the 1950s, they did create a treatment for hydrocephalus, which is a shunt, which is what Maddie has. And the shunt actually provides a pathway for the spinal fluid to drain from the brain into the body, and Maddie's actually goes from her brain through a tube all the way down into her stomach, where it releases, not in her stomach, but in her abdomen, and her body can absorb it from there. So she was diagnosed at 4 weeks old with hydrocephalus, and then 2 weeks later, when she was 6 weeks old, she had her first surgery to place her shunt in. Normally, well, not normally, but unfortunately, a lot of childhood shunts fail within the first 2 years of life, and Maddie's did. Her shunt failed several times. In the first 4 years of her life, she had 8 brain surgeries, 1 to put in the original shunt, and then 7 more to fix the shunt when it failed or malfunctioned. During the first year of her life, around 10 months, she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, which is when an area of the brain is damaged, and that happened with the brain bleed. And so she has other disabilities because of the areas of the brain that were affected by the brain bleed. So during that time when her shunt malfunctioned, the way that we knew that it was malfunctioning was she would become sick. She would vomit like once every 45 minutes. Her head would be killing her, and then she would throw up and the pressure would release a little bit and she'd feel better, and she'd be able to kind of, sit up for about 45 minutes, and as her ventricles got full again, it would give her a big headache, make her feel nauseous, and she would get sick. Also, her eyes would begin to wander, which is something that happened to her because of the brain damage to the part of the brain that is responsible for vision as well. So when she was 4.5, Maddie got very sick. She had a lot of tummy troubles and headaches, and we weren't sure what was going on because it was intermittent, and we'd been to the doctor and we couldn't figure out. So after quite a while, we were at the emergency room and we found out that she had a massive shunt infection. Her body had made a pseudocyst down in her abdomen where the shunt was draining, and it was blocking the shunt, and this infection had taken over her body. It was extremely dangerous because, as you can imagine, the shunt is a direct path to the brain, and if infection gets into the brain, it can be devastating for a person. So they had to externalize her shunt, which meant that they had a hole in her head, and they took the tubing from the shunt outside of her body, and the tubing ran and drained into a bag, and they had to do that to get the infection out of her body. It took 28 days for the infection to go away, and after the 28 days, they put a new shunt in on the other side of her head that also drained into her stomach, and once that was working fine, they took out the old shunt and sewed her up. And we're really lucky because that shunt has worked since she was 4.5, but we have had some scares, yeah, during that time. And that's the thing with hydrocephalus, is that you never know if your child is just sick with the flu or something like that, or if the shunt is failing. And so we spent many nights in the ER getting CAT scans of her head, MRIs of her head and her tummy to see if there's any blockage. Times when they would have to do taps for the spinal fluid to see if there was any infections by putting a needle into her head, into the shunt, and testing that fluid. So that's happened many, many times during Maddie's life. After her shunt infection, because of that, she also became diagnosed with epilepsy and started having seizures. Luckily, her seizures have been under control with medication for about 9 years, but she continues to suffer from headaches and has her whole life. There was a year actually in high school a couple years ago where she went through more than 20 diagnostic tests. She had to have her shunt adjusted multiple times. You know, did it need to drain faster? Did it need to drain slower? Like, what was going on? What was causing all of these headaches? She had CT scans, MRIs, different types of therapies. We saw probably 7 specialists in Colorado and here in Albuquerque, just to see what was causing of life. And that's what is so hard for people with hydrocephalus. They have to deal with headaches and pushing through life every single day. Some people with hydrocephalus have multiple disabilities and lead, difficult lives in and out of hospitals, doing therapies. Some are affected even in their speech and more so in their movement than Maddie has been affected. But, more often than not, most people with hydrocephalus lead very full lives, and despite all of their challenges. And so we feel very lucky that Maddie has had a wonderful and grateful life, and both in elementary school and at Cottonwood, and she's looking forward to going to college. And we are asking you to donate tonight to the Hydrocephalus Association, which is dedicated to finding a cure for this life-threatening condition. Remember, there is no cure for hydrocephalus. There's only treatment, and all the treatments are brain surgeries. So tonight, we ask you to join us with hashtag no more BS, no more brain surgeries, and help find a cure for hydrocephalus. Thank you.
So the first 2 types of hydrocephalus are congenital hydrocephalus, which is the condition exists at birth and is caused by a variety of genetic and environmental factors during the fetal development. Typically is diagnosed through an ultrasound before birth. And then the second one is compensated hydrocephalus. In this case, the condition may have been treated at birth or in the early stages of childhood and remained asymptomatic until later on in life.
Yeah, so there are 4 total types of hydrocephalus. Maddie just explained the first 2. The last 2 that we have are acquired hydrocephalus. This type of hydrocephalus is when the condition develops after birth, and it's usually a result of various neurological conditions, such as head trauma, brain tumors, cysts, hemorrhages, and infections in the central nervous system. So as I mentioned earlier, sometimes hydrocephalus doesn't always occur in babies, and so it can be acquired later in life, so that's acquired hydrocephalus. And then we have normal pressure hydrocephalus, and this is the condition that occurs in older adults when the ventricles of the brain are enlarged, but there is little to no change in pressure in the ventricles. So this condition is typically idiopathic, which means the cause is not known, So it's really important that we research this cause some more so that we know the cause of this type of hydrocephalus and in order to find a cure. So the next thing that we have planned is a video from a local mother with a daughter. Her name is Margaret. Her daughter has hydrocephalus, and she's going to be talking about her experience and learning about hydrocephalus and dealing with it in her daughter.
Hello everybody, my name is Abby Goldwood. I go by Abby. I am 20 years old. This is my dad, Tallulah. This is my mom, Marnie. And we're both going to be talking to you guys about hydrocephalus and why awareness is so important, not only for fundraising, for research, to help people living with hydrocephalus, but also just to give understanding of hydrocephalus and what it's like to be living in the body of somebody with hydrocephalus, also what it's like to be a parent of somebody with hydrocephalus, whether they are a little kid or an adult like myself, and just the process that we've gone through and what we've experienced. Now, our story is not going to be like everybody else's. Every person with hydrocephalus is different, and so this is just a glimpse into one life with hydrocephalus. So I kind of wanted to start this off by asking my mom what it was like when I was little, because obviously I don't remember that much when I was little. So I'm going to let her kind of tell us what it was like for them, for my mom and dad to be raising me. And then, I'll kind of take it on when about the years that I remember. So, go ahead, Mom.
So, it all started in August of 2000. Abby, when she was in my belly still, stopped kicking so much the last month before she was born, and I knew something was different compared to my first pregnancy with my son. And unfortunately, we only had one ultrasound at 20 weeks, and at that time we did not know that there was anything different about the pregnancy. Her birth was difficult because she couldn't help. Typically babies kind of help with the birth process, and so Abby was very sluggish and kind of stuck in the birth canal because her head was so large, and we didn't realize that at the time. She was full term. She was an ounce shy of 9 pounds when she was born, and so she was a nice, big, healthy baby. And a lot of times they say that, and they equate, they meaning the medical community, they equate big babies with healthy babies. And so her head circumference was in the 98th percentile. And I learned later on that that should have been a flag. Greater than the 95th percentile should be flagged for later evaluation to see if hydrocephalus could be a possibility. Nobody told us that, and we took her home the next day, and very quickly realized something was different. She couldn't stay awake long enough to eat and feed. I was breastfeeding, and we had to keep constantly waking her up and putting a cold cloth on her to get her to feed. Even for 30 seconds to a minute, she would collapse in exhaustion. And so it was a couple of weeks before I took you to the pediatrician, and I believe it was your 2-week checkup that I handed her over to the pediatrician and said, "There's something wrong, please figure it out. She's just not coming along the way that my son did." And so another week went by before an ultrasound appointment was able to be had, and that's when they found out that there was about 1 centimeter of brain compressed against her skull, and the rest was fluid. So it was diagnosed as massive hydrocephalus at the time. And she had surgery the next day. So you were about 3 weeks old at that time. Mm-hmm. And we were told, "Oh, she's fixed. It's just simple hydrocephalus." After that, we realized there is no such thing as simple hydrocephalus, and that hydrocephalus is
Nothing
caused...
is simple in the hydrocephalus world.
But we found out that hydrocephalus can be caused by a whole variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. And we know now that for Abby, it has something to do with her veins, vascular makeup. Her vasculature of her brain is very different than the average person, and so that has impacted her ability to absorb cerebrospinal fluid. But we found out she also has other neurological conditions, including Chiari malformation and probable Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is something we're still chasing down, and venous
And vascular
malformations.
issues,
So that has compounded her hydrocephalus in a variety of ways. But Abby, what's your first memory of, like, do you remember finding out that you had a shunt and what that meant to have a shunt?
All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is symptoms of hydrocephalus. In infants and children, there is abnormal head enlargement, tints, bulging fontanelle, prominent scalp veins, skull bones may feel separated, vomiting, sleepiness, irritability, headaches, and downward deviation of the eyes. In young and middle-aged adults, they can have chronic headaches, difficulty walking or gait disturbances, cognitive challenges and complaints, and also urinary urgency or incontinence. Also in adults, older adults, they can have some difficulty walking and gait disturbances as well, cognitive challenges, and sometimes mild dementia, and also urinary urgency or incontinence.
How it affects people's lives. Hydrocephalus can impact an individual in different ways. Quite often, people suffer from headaches. Hydrocephalus usually occurs in individuals who are born with spina bifida. Quite often, having learning disabilities in math and suffer from vision impairments, quite often suffer from chronic medical conditions such as cerebral palsy and epilepsy due to brain damage.
So if you are just now coming in, our mom did talk about what Maddie has gone through, and Maddie specifically has cerebral palsy and epilepsy, but she also does sometimes have trouble with math. It's more so just kind of lining up the numbers.
Yeah.
But Maddie is an amazing speaker. She's great at English, and she's a bunch of fun to be around, but sometimes she can get annoying. I think that's just a sister thing. But it does affect people in many different ways, and we've just been lucky to see Maddie thrive and be the best that she can be. Yeah. So the next thing, we just want to remind you that you can text HFH to this number on the screen, or you can also go to the link to donate,
which is in the description box.
And we also want to remind you that there is a raffle going on so that you can go to Sign Up Genius and buy some raffle tickets to buy the items that we have from amazing donors. Something else too, I'm also going to talk about my story and being a sister with Maddie and just kind of what we've gone through. If you don't know, which hopefully you know, I am Maddie's identical twin, and then we also have a fraternal twin brother. Blonde hair, green eyes, doesn't really look like us, but we 17 years together, and it's really exciting. We are getting ready to go to college and actually kind of leave one another, but with Maddie, she has always been my biggest supporter out of my entire family. She will give me hugs after all of my gymnastics competitions. She'll rewatch all of my videos. She'll watch college gymnastics with me. She's amazing. And Luke too. We've been really, really lucky to actually be triplets and to kind of have this life experience together. Maddie has taught us to never give up and to always keep fighting. She had a really tough year back, I think, when she was a freshman. Sophomore year, she had headaches for a really long time, and it was really difficult to watch my sister go through that and to be in pain all the time. But she did it. She got through it, and we're very proud of her. And now I'm really proud of Maddie because she's going to go to college. She's gotten some scholarships. Check out this list. So it's just, I'm very, very amazed. Anyways, so we are asking you to donate just to help us find a cure for hydrocephalus so that hopefully other people don't have to go through brain surgeries like Maddie has and like so many other people, Abby, who you will hear a story from later tonight. So thank you just for being here and for donating and listening to us.
Yeah. Oh.
What time is it?
Wow, okay. So hi everybody, welcome back. We are going to go ahead and look at our little thermometer that we have for our donations. So far we have $725, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much. Just a reminder, you can come back to the site to donate. You can share it with anybody from your family, any friends, sorry. Family members, friends, people from out of state. That would be totally awesome. It would be for such a good cause in helping Maddie and other people with hydrocephalus.
We also want to remind you of our raffle items. On the left, you should see hydrocephalus themed items. There are 2 bags. One of them is a clear drawstring bag. One of them is just a clear handbag, and those are awesome for concerts because we know that when you go into concerts, you have to have your items in a clear bag for security. There is also a stadium chair that you can use to sit on the bleachers if we can ever go back to sports. There are some shop little flyers if you want to buy some hydrocephalus gear, and there are also some flashlight keychains. On the right, we have our donation from Waxing the City. It has that cute little orange bag. You can bring that card in to get a free waxing appointment, and then there are also just some skincare things as well. We also want to remind you that there is a 15-minute photo session with K-Shine Photography. This is awesome if you're still trying to get senior photos in, or if you just want to do some amazing photos with your family. We really encourage you guys to go look at that as well.
Mm-hmm. Some of the other items we have include gift cards to Dion's, that is $50. We also have a $50 gift card, a Visa gift card, and a $100 Amazon gift card.
All right, so the next thing we're going to do is talk about some more facts for hydrocephalus. In the past, individuals with hydrocephalus would die fairly quickly because of the pressure that builds up in their heads. They would become bedridden because their head would just weigh too much to hold it up, and their neck couldn't support the pressure that their head had in it. And in the end, their condition would become fatal because their head was too heavy to support and their necks would actually break. And up until 1962, hydrocephalus was a fatal condition because in 1962, that was when the shunt was created. So once again, we really just want to press the importance of donating tonight and help us fund research to find a cure for hydrocephalus.
Yeah. So as Megan mentioned, one of the common types of treatment for hydrocephalus is a shunt. And so a shunt is kind of this flexible tube that is placed into the ventricular system of the brain, and that runs the spinal fluid from the brain to another part of the body. And this is usually to the abdominal cavity, and that fluid is there and it gets absorbed. There is also a valve within the shunt that keeps the fluid at a normal pressure within the brain. And this is one of the most common treatments, but there are other options. So one of the other options that we have is the endoscopic third ventriculoscopy. Hopefully I'm saying that right, I apologize. So this is when an endoscope is used to puncture the membrane in the floor of the third ventricle, creating a pathway for the fluid flow in the brain. And then one of the last options that we have is an endoscopic third ventriculoscopy with thyroid plexus cauterization. And so this is when the neurosurgeon uses cauterization to burn tissue from the thyroid plexus, and that's a network, I apologize, of vessels in the ventricles where the fluid is produced.
We also want to send a reminder that the raffle will be closing at 7:10. So if you haven't bought your tickets or put them in to win an item, please do so before you lose your chance. Once again, that is 7:10. So the next thing we are going to do is go into Abby's video. She is a local teenager who has hydrocephalus, and she is a little bit different from Maddie, doesn't have as many disabilities, but Abby's story is amazing, and she is also, she's a fighter, and we are so glad that she and her mom decided and they were able to help us out with this tonight. So without further ado, Abby's video.
Abby, what's your first memory of, like, do you remember finding out that you had a shunt and what that meant to have a shunt?
Yeah, so I don't, honestly, this sounds weird, but I really don't remember anything hydrocephalus related until I was about 10, 11-ish, because before that, I just, you know, if I was hurting or if I had pain, I would go tell Mom, and Mom would figure it out, call the doctors, and we would go from there. And
You're pretty lucky in the beginning, though, because
yeah, in the beginning,
you didn't grow up with shunt revisions, did you?
No, I had, you know, the placement when I was 3 weeks old. And I think we had one replacement.
Just the valve.
Just
or
the
your
valve.
valve was replaced when you were almost 3.
Yeah.
Because you were over draining, and she ended up with like split ventricle syndrome. So it was very sick. Like every 6 weeks or so, she would start vomiting. It would look like a shunt malfunction. We'd take her in, and then she'd be fine, and her ventricles would look nice and small. And then we found out, well, when they overdrain, they become too small, like slits. And that can cause problems too. So that's when the doctor just replaced your valve. But you don't remember that.
I remember that. Yeah, I was only 3, so I don't remember that.
3 to 11.
So yeah, from 3 to 11,
good.
everything was pretty good. And then when I was 11, so that's, you know, 5th or 6th grade, I started having shunt malfunction issues that we didn't think were shunt malfunction issues at the time.
Very strange symptoms.
Very strange symptoms. I remember the vision was the biggest component of that time
period. That was in the end, but that year, almost a year and a half leading up to that, you had a lot of nausea and vomiting. Do you remember being in high school? She used to go to school at the school that I worked at, and she'd be every trash can. You'd be just dry heaving or even throwing up a little bit. And that lasted for about a year to a year and a half. They couldn't figure out why you were vomiting.
And so we had to consult GI. I mean, they led us down a bunch of rabbit holes because
wild goose chases.
As some of you may know, if it's not clear on the imaging, then it's probably not the hydrocephalus giving you the problems. And so the neurosurgeons kind of hand you off to another doctor, because if it's not clear cut, then it's not hydrocephalus, you know, and that's a little frustrating because...
But we also had the flip side where, you know, you go in because you stubbed your toe or whatever, and they're like, oh, it's your shunt, and then they
and
they image you.
Yeah, it's
so
always
it can go either way.
One side or the other. It's never a happy medium, you know, in the hydrocephalus world, and so that's what you know, I remember was just getting sick all the time and vomiting and throwing up and just not feeling well at all. And this lasted for a while because my surgeon at the time just kept saying your shunt's normal, your ventricles are fine, there's nothing.
You didn't have that classic trifecta of headache, nausea, vomiting.
And, you know, so it was just, let's not upset the apple cart, which we agreed with, but,
because
you know,
didn't have headache.
because I didn't have headache. I wasn't a classical symptom hydro patient, you know, until it got really bad. And so this was about a 3-year, or not 3-year,
well, you had some real vague, strange symptoms up to 3 years before that.
Yes.
But it culminated in you finally getting a headache those last few weeks, and then your vision started going double.
My vision started going double, and then it evolved to the point where I was just seeing shapes, blurry shapes and colors. And I almost went blind, but the surgeons didn't catch it because they didn't.
It was the neuro-ophthalmologist who caught it.
It was my eye doctor who caught it, and
she noticed that your optic
nerves were dangerously thin, and she said, you need to go consult your neurosurgeon right now. And so she actually called him for us and said, hey, there's something wrong, you gotta look at it. And he was a little upset, to be honest.
Well, he had been monitoring you every 2 weeks. She had a programmable valve at the time, which could be changed using a device and a magnet, because it was a magnetic programmable valve, and so he kept trying to adjust it. Her ventricles had only enlarged very slightly, ever so slightly on the imaging, so he was not convinced it was shunt related until your symptoms were so severe. But you had never had a malfunction, and so we didn't know what malfunctions looked like for Abby. And so that's what happens with individuals with hydrocephalus, is that every person's malfunction looks differently. And within that person,
every malfunction isn't the same every time. So you might have a malfunction that's headache, nausea, vomiting, and that's that. And so you're like, oh yeah, geez, okay, that's a problem. But then the next malfunction might just be like a really bad headache, and that's it, but then that draws into, okay, headaches can be migraines, headaches can be hydro, and so that's why, we ran into problems with the doctors, is because they want to eliminate everything else before they have to get surgical, because it is really invasive and really painful, and it's a big process. It's not
And
easy.
it's also a Pandora's box.
And it's also a Pandora's box, because once you get opened up, there's many issues that you can deal with. There's, incision healing issues you can deal with. There's infection that you can deal with. You can increase your chances for infection and bleeding. I mean, the brain is
Stroke,
a
hemorrhages.
very delicate organ, and so there are many paths that can be very terrifying that you can go down, and so that's why surgeons are very, adamant about not doing surgery, which is understandable, but in the same breath it can make it hard for the family, because then you have to do extra advocacy that you shouldn't have to be doing.
Back to when you were 11.
So back to when I was 11.
So malfunction turned out to be.
Yeah, it turned out to be malfunction, and my surgeon was blown away. He said when he opened me up, the head site wasn't. It was fine. It looked good.
Mm-hmm.
So then they went down to the distal end, which is the end in the peritoneum, the stomach, where most shunts go if you have that type of VP shunt. And he said that it looked like a snake had swallowed a mouse.
It being the catheter.
The catheter. So the catheter was thin, and then a big lump, and then thin. So
bunch of cells, blood, tissue had
debris.
accumulated, which had to have taken years, which is why you probably had so many weird
Weird
symptoms leading up to it.
Yeah.
But he was shocked. He had never seen that before.
Yeah.
So, but at that point, you had lost so many of your optic nerve fibers that you had permanent optic nerve damage done and atrophy. We're thankful that we caught it in time. Your vision did slowly took about 4 or 5 weeks before your vision bounced back after that. And it was a very atypical shunt malfunction, because 80% of the time when a shunt malfunctions in a child, it's the proximal portion in the head. Only 20% of the time is it the abdomen, the distal. And
of course, it was, in the 20%, that's kind of the story of my life with hydrocephalus, is that I'm always in the group that is
1 in a million.
1 in a million. It's always the lesser, statistic, so it's not,
One
never
of these
cookie
days,
cutter.
we're going to hit that lottery.
Yeah, right? Exactly, I hope so. So it's never cookie cutter. So that was the biggest thing I had ever gone through at that point, and it was terrifying, and so many things could have happened, but thank God I got my vision back, and the headaches and all the symptoms, for the most part, but all the symptoms subsided, and I was a healthy 11-year-old, and I just kept living life.
Well, you were dealing with your vein malformation, so you had a few surgeries for that, but your hydrocephalus was what we call the monster under the bed.
The monster
it would kind of
was,
be quiet, and
for a while.
we would almost forget for a while that it was there until it would rear its ugly head again, and that happened when you were 16.
Yeah, so, that happened at 11, and then for about 5-ish years, I was great. I was at the pinnacle of my life. I mean, I had joined the high school cross-country and track team. I was on the drama club. I mean,
Whereas when you were young,
when I was young, I
you were
couldn't
going
do
to
anything.
physical
I was
therapy
going
and
to physical
occupational therapy.
while
She had
other
trouble
kids
with
were in
coordination.
ballet, and so I wasn't able to do anything until I was 16. And so I was living my best life, cross-country, track, drama. I mean, I had a great set of friends. I was doing everything that a 16-year-old would want to do. So in the midst of that normalness, I was about to get my driver's license. I was smack dab in the middle of driver's ed, actually, when we went to Cliffs, which is an amusement park here in New Mexico. And I was on a roller coaster. We were having fun.
I think it wasn't. You only did spinny rides.
Spinny rides, that's right.
So it's the centrifugal force that spins you around shifted something in your brain. We think that's what happened because she got sick the next day.
And so the next day we were out to dinner for my brother's birthday, actually, and I started throwing up. Came home and started throwing up, and I was like, oh gosh. So
stomach flu. We thought the stomach flu at first.
Yeah,
we always
parents
of kids with hydrocephalus, that's like the big joke, right? It's like, please let it be the flu. Please let it be anything. Like right now, I mean, we've said that several times in the last year. Please let it be COVID. It
Yeah.
sounds terrible, but you always
it's
want it to be
better than
something
the
more normal. You don't
alternative.
want it to be
Because
that
I'd
Pandora's
rather deal with the
box.
flu than another brain surgery. I mean, there's so much more risk, you know. And so, you know, started throwing up, and the throwing up didn't stop, and then the headaches started again, and it was just a big, long rabbit hole again.
That lasted
for
two and a
two-ish
half
years.
years.
So eventually we figured out it was the shunt. I had about 18.
Part of it was the shunt.
Yeah, I had about 18 surgeries.
You had 17 surgeries
17
between
surgeries between
sophomore and junior year.
So 2016 to 20.
But that included
Or
being
7.
diagnosed with Chiari malformation and then having a surgical induced hemorrhage that caused a massive bleed, losing the right side sensory information on her body, brain infection. We had to go to Colorado a lot, and we were there for the entire month of December 2017.
When I had a brain infection, which we talked about
She was
earlier.
very, very sick.
Almost lost my life that year. So hydrocephalus is no joke.
But the good news is, because of research, due to the Hydrocephalus Association, research that really has only come about in your lifetime, which is pretty incredible, with her being born in the year 2000.
Super
I don't
new.
remember, we've had the absolute blessing of getting to attend every single Hydrocephalus Association conference since you were 18 months old, so I think that's 9.
Yeah, because it's once every other year.
Because we missed the last one because of COVID, right? But because of the research that's been done and started and the grants that have been given to these young researchers and people who can make a difference and find medications that can change CSF dynamics and a smarter shunt and
finding new technology to diagnose shunt malfunctions.
Yes.
Because as of current day, MRI and CT is basically the only scans to catch this,
and it's
even
50-50.
then, it doesn't catch it all the time. I mean, you could have a broken shunt and imaging won't see it. I mean, it's not 100%. And you know, going in for X-rays every other week, that's not practical.
Right.
That you know can increase your radiation. I mean, that's not good. And so we are trying to stray away from that and come up with new technologies to detect less invasive ways to detect shunt malfunction.
And keep people healthier for longer periods of time.
And let people with hydrocephalus live their life without being in fear of malfunction every day. That's not okay, and that's what this fundraising is trying to uphold. That's what we're trying to do, is to raise money. Also,
because that money actually goes
to
where
research.
it's supposed to go. Unlike a lot of organizations, unfortunately, nonprofit organizations that have grown very quickly and they had good intentions at the start, and sometimes that the money doesn't always get to where it's supposed to go, and it goes more to administrative type costs. And that's one of the things I love about Hydrocephalus Association, and that's why I donate on a monthly basis, is because that money goes to the individuals that can actually affect this change. And so we just hope that everybody out there does that. Even if it's just a few dollars, whatever you can afford during these difficult times can make a huge impact to these individuals. And you know, 1 out of every 500 to 1,000 babies are born with hydrocephalus. And it's still the #1 cause for brain surgery in children in America. And so what do you want to tell people in our parting thoughts here, Abby?
Just for my hydro warriors who do have hydrocephalus, keep going. It is a fight for sure, but it's a worthy fight. And no matter how your hydrocephalus presents, you know, my hydrocephalus does not present as obvious as it would have been, but no matter how your hydrocephalus presents, don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do, because they don't get to decide what you want in life and what you get to do in life. That is your choice. That is your decision. So you want to become a surgeon, or you want to become a pilot, whatever you want, you try to do it as best as you can to the best of your ability. And for the parents out there, from a child's perspective, keep going. You know, your child appreciates you more than you'll ever know, and even if they can't tell you that, they love you dearly, just like I love my mom dearly, and she's fought so hard for me throughout the years. I just want to tell you guys that you matter more than anybody in the medical field that you're dealing with. You are your child's biggest supporter. Yes, the surgeons and the medical team, they help, but you are the biggest fighter for your child. So don't give up, because we appreciate it. And, you know, we just want you guys to keep going. And just because September is our awareness month doesn't mean that we can't do this the whole year.
Exactly.
So let's keep going. Keep it up.
I just have to brag on this girl real quick. She is the hardest worker and the most tenacious individual I've ever known. And she has beat the odds and has achieved so many milestones, some of which are now that she's a third-year college student. She's going to be graduating next year. She has a job teaching tiny humans in preschool, and she just has a full, exciting life and is working really hard and getting scholarships for college and going forth to become a
Child life specialist, which I'm sure a lot of you know about, is a healthcare professional in the pediatric world who helps children cope with loss and illness and surgery, and is
learning about all those things,
yeah,
and what's happening to their body,
and engages in medical play, and they are the good guys in the hospital. They are not the scary ones with the needles. They are the good guys, and they bring in toys and everything to help the kids get through their hospital stay, regardless of what their condition is. So I hope to become one to help kids like me, like you, and make the world a better place, just like we're all trying to do with this organization.
Well, thanks for listening. We
Yes.
hope that you are all safe and healthy, and that your journey is blessed.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye! All right, we hope that you enjoyed Abby's story. We want to remind you that you have 3 minutes until the raffle ends. So if you haven't put your tickets in for any items, you have 3 minutes to do so. Well, now you have 2 minutes to do so until it closes. We also are going to be taking an intermission just in case you need to go to the bathroom, get a drink, or get a snack at 7:10. So we are going to play the cute photos of Maddie again, and we should be back by 7:20.
Okay, so it is 7:10, so that means that our raffle is closed. Hopefully you got your raffle tickets in by now, but we will be announcing the winners later on tonight. So thank you guys so much.
Now I can go.
Yep.
Okay. So right now we are looking at the donation website, and thank you guys. You have raised $750 for us.
We we want to start talking about a little bit more about hydrocephalus.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, hydrocephalus does affect a variety of people. It's not just little babies, although that is typically the most common. It can affect anybody, and it can develop later on in life. And then something else really important too was earlier we mentioned the shunt treatment. And while this is a treatment that people with the condition can receive, it has a really high failure rate from anywhere from 40 to 50%. And then something else just really interesting about the Hydrocephalus Association, it was established in
1983. And once again, we really want to thank the Hydrocephalus Association, especially Marina Thompson, for helping us out with this. You guys have been truly amazing. And the Hydrocephalus Association is a great resource for families who are finding out that their child or maybe just themselves have hydrocephalus. They are very helpful, very supportive. They have a lot of different programs, including a teen group for teens with hydrocephalus from all around the nation who can meet and share their stories and spread advocacy as well. And something else that is really important, I mentioned this in the very beginning, hydrocephalus is a hidden condition. It's pretty unknown, but actually 1 out of every 770 babies will develop hydrocephalus, and this is more than Down syndrome and cystic fibrosis. So the fact that we hear more about Down syndrome and cystic fibrosis, even though it's less than hydrocephalus, is it's a little devastating. And we are hoping that tonight you guys will keep hydrocephalus close to your heart and will also help raise awareness.
Okay. How many babies will develop hydrocephalus? Oh, this one? Oh, how many babies are born with it? So it's 1 to 2 out of 1,000 babies are born with it. People currently in the U.S. with hydrocephalus, there are over 1 million. What can you do? As a reminder, you can donate, raise awareness, keep hydro close to your heart.
Something else too that you can do, although it's not possible right now with COVID, the Hydrocephalus Association does host walks for people to go on walks and raise awareness and support the association. So hopefully when restrictions lighten up and things get better, you can go and take part in a walk for hydrocephalus.
So now we wanted to segue into Maddie's story. And once again, we are very thankful for everyone in the chat who has been sending their support and love. But we are ready to hear what Maddie has to say. It'll be okay.
Hi. Hi. My name is Nana Tuesday. For you, friends. Those of you that don't know, I am a triplet, and I'm senior here at Cottonwood. This event is very close to my heart because I actually was diagnosed with hydrocephalus at 4 or 5 weeks old. My doctors waited to diagnose me because they were monitoring the growth of my head The doctors wanted to see if the hemorrhage would resolve itself, but it didn't. So when I was 6 weeks old, I had a baby shunt put in, and my first shunt lasted for about 4 years, and throughout the 4 years, I had to have 7 revisions, and when I was 4.5 years old, I started having a really bad stomach ache. I went to the doctor because we didn't know what was wrong with me yet. I later went to the ER, and after lots of testing and consults, we found out that my shunt was infected. I spent a total of 28 days in the hospital in order to clear the infection. My adult shunt was placed on the other side of my head, and I've had this shunt in my head ever since. Living with this condition can be really hard sometimes. My experience with the condition is very different from Abby, who was the girl you heard from earlier tonight. Many times I have headaches. Headaches are an everyday reality for people with hydrocephalus, and I have learned to cope with my headaches and have been able to keep on doing my everyday activities. I, again, like my mom said, have been one of the very lucky people, and so again, I'm asking you to please consider donating tonight because, once again, there's not a cure and only treatments.
Nice.
Yeah. So, 7:23.
Okay.
It's not.
So that was such a wonderful experience to hear about Maddie's story. I myself am touched. I have never had a connection to knowing anybody with hydrocephalus, and this whole experience setting up the fundraiser, learning about Maddie, learning about Margaret and Abby has been such a cool experience for me, and it's been really touching, so props to Maddie. Something else that Maddie mentioned too, and we forgot to mention it earlier with the shunt, it's not just a one-time thing, it oftentimes does have to be replaced. And so there's a lot of trauma from going through multiple surgeries, and that's why it's really important that we find a cure.
The next thing that we are going to do is going to our Kahoot game, and we are going to give you guys a couple minutes to log on. If you don't know what Kahoot is, it is a quiz game that we use here at Cottonwood as a learning tool, but it is also a lot of fun and it is pretty competitive. So we're going to share that code with you and give you about 6 minutes to log on, and we will start at 7:30. All right, we are going to press start. You're going to have 20 seconds to answer each question. All right, so from the last time we checked, we have raised about another $200. We're almost to 1,000, which is amazing. You guys are doing awesome, and we are so, so thankful. We also have the raffle prize winners.
So, the first $100 Amazon gift card actually goes to our grandma, Nancy Cobalt.
Congratulations!
Oh, sorry. And then the winner for our $50 Visa gift card goes to Jeremy Alford. Congratulations.
The mini photo shoot goes to Liz Titus. Oh my God.
Okay. And then our Dion's gift cards go to Kristen DePatty. Congratulations.
And the Hydrocephalus basket goes to Willow Wee Wee.
And then our certificate for... Oh yeah, sorry.
The winner of the Waxing the City basket is Tiffany Vanetsky. Congratulations! Also, we just want to reiterate one more time, we are almost to $1,000.
Yeah.
There is 20 more minutes to donate, and we would love it. Please, please, please help us get to $1,000. Even if our goal is $5,000, $1,000 is still an amazing amount of money to send to the Hydrocephalus Association. So contact friends and family, and get them to donate, even if it's just any amount helps. So please, 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 20 minutes left. Try to get the word out. Thank you so much.
And on behalf of our family, we want to say thank you for supporting us.
Yeah, and thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate it. This was our senior cast project. It was something that we decided to do for our community, and we really appreciate that our community was able to help us out. So thank you guys so much. It was such an awesome time, especially playing Kahoot. I really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much.
Oh, okay. So now we're going to start our thank yous. So the first person we would like to thank is Jessica Carruthers, who owns Waxing the City. You were very sweet to donate to us, and we really appreciate you for doing that.
We also want to thank Krista from K-Shine Photography, and congrats on winning that as well. We really hope that you have a great photo session, and thank you for supporting a local business.
And then we have two families that donated to our raffle. We would like to thank the Martinez family and the Fecte family. Sorry. We appreciate your guys' donations greatly. Thank you guys so much.
We would also like to thank once again Marina Thompson for all her awesome help.
And the Hydrocephalus Association as a whole. We are so glad that we got to collaborate with you guys to help us with this event, and we are hoping that we can put this on again next year. We also want to thank Bodie, who is amazing, put this all together. We could not do it without him.
We also want to thank Miss Geertz for her awesome support and willingness to help us.
Yeah, and we also want to thank Gabriella. She is one of our team members. Unfortunately, she is not here tonight, but she helped in planning this fundraiser, and she helped with donations for the raffle from Dion. So we want to thank her as well.
Yes.
And we also want to thank all of you who donated tonight and who logged on. Thank you for buying raffle tickets. We have a rough estimate of about $700 from raffle tickets. So thank you so much for helping us get more money that way as well. Thank you if you participated in our spirit nights at Chipotle and Fuddruckers. We made some pretty good money off of that as well. Thank you to just the CCPS community as a whole. Thank you for supporting us. Yeah, in our senior year of high school as well, going through the pandemic, and for all of your support with IB testing and making sure that we are doing great and getting ready to go into college. We are so thankful for all of that, and thank you to our families for all of your support and for helping us get this done. We would love to say thank you to our older sister Tiffany Vanetsky. She, when we were littler, would help put on the hydrocephalus walks back when we were in elementary school. To our mom and dad, Mary and Brian.
She made the sign in the slideshow too.
Yeah, Tiff did. To our parents, to the wee-wees, for all of their amazing ideas and their support as well. So you guys are just amazing. We're going to leave the donations up until 8 p.m., but we do want to remind you that the link for donations is open until Monday. So if you want to send this to anybody else or just spread awareness of it, please do so. You have until Monday. Thank you, and we hope you all have a great night.